I'm Robyn Crane, and this is the Growing Your Financial Business the Woman's Way podcast. Listen, I was a financial advisor for over a decade, and I got so sick of the old archaic strategies that your grandpa used to get clients. What the industry teaches today is still so outdated and just doesn't work anymore. So I had to find a better way for myself, and then I got obsessed with sharing these how-tos with other women like me. The stuff I teach doesn't require giving up your life, your sanity, or your family time. I want women like you to have it easier than I had it, so you can thrive in the industry. I've now helped thousands of women grow their financial businesses to multiple six figures, some even seven figures per year. So on this podcast, you're going to get an inside look at how they did it so you can do it too. Let's dive into the show. Welcome, welcome. I am here with a good friend of mine, Nicholle Overkamp, and we were just talking for a while to catch up because it's been so long, and we started working together, we think, in 2017, and we were trying to kind of figure out the numbers back then. But what we deduced is that Nicholle more than tripled her revenue since then in the last 4 years. And obviously a lot of people have had challenges during the pandemic and all these things. And instead she's been growing at least 20% every single year. And I know when we first started, it was a big shift and big influx of just income and cash. But part of that was also because you started to put more attention onto financial plans, and you actually built kind of another side business. So we'll get into that and how you did that. But just phenomenal, just like huge growth that I've seen. And also she has a best-selling book that most of you aren't watching on YouTube, but called Money Bitch. She's a #1 best-selling author as well, and has done incredible things. So excited to have you here, Nicholle.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and catching up.
Yeah, it's fun. So we were talking a little bit, and I'm like, let's just do it on the podcast. Like, we can catch up. So tell them a little bit, like, you have just a crazy, scary and traumatic, and also with a positive ending, of this story. Tell them like where you were right before you came to work with me, and why you decided to make these shifts in your business and in your life.
Yeah, sure. So when I started talking to you, Robyn, and that was right after I read your book, because I was in this position in my life where I felt like I was just up against a wall and completely stuck. And so we just figured out in catching up before this podcast, I have zero concept of time. So it could have been like 3 months, 6 months, I don't even know. When I did read your book, but let's call it 6 months prior to that, I was in an accident with my husband. And when we got into that accident, I was somehow miraculously fine. Neither one of us died. We both probably should have. He was in a coma. And
just to give the listeners some context, so it was a boating accident, right? And you guys were racing or something? Was it some sort of race?
Yeah, we flipped our boat going 120 miles an hour. So, and for anybody who has been tubing at like 20 miles an hour and falls off the tube and hits the water, and you're like, oh, that kind of hurts. Like that's, we were going at a pretty good clip. So yes, it was a boating accident, and a rare thing to survive in general. And somehow, like, I wasn't hurt beyond being a little achy, and Chris was in a coma, and we didn't know if he was gonna make it or not. And that was 2 days after my 30th birthday, actually. And so, I had to, learn a lot really quickly in terms of what we did wrong, and not having the hard conversations around money and estate planning, and a lot of those documents that I tell people every single day that they have to do, I avoided it myself. And that put me in an expensive scenario that could have been avoided. But he ended up needing, after he got out of the hospital, he was in the hospital from August until October. And then for about another maybe 4 or 5 months after that, he really needed 24/7 supervision. And then it took a couple of years after that for him to get back to mostly normal, and it's amazing how things progress. But in that moment, in that year, I realized that I needed to all of a sudden overnight do business differently. And I knew I needed to potentially be the only income earner in my family and be able to provide to take care of my husband and for all of his needs and what he needed. And there's just so much that medical insurance doesn't cover. And at the time when I had reached out to you, I didn't know if he'd need long-term care for the rest of his life. And at the time he was only 42. So anybody who has a parent or grandparent in long-term care, ouch, that's a terrifying number. Right. So and before the accident, about 40% of my business revenue was from traveling often and doing family business succession planning. And so that the week of the accident, I basically like cold turkey said, I can't do this anymore. Told the firm that I was working with, it's not going to work. I have to refocus my business. Sorry, not sorry. And cut ties because they were very, very demanding. And so I knew like, not only do I need to do all of the things, support and provide in the future and create some kind of stability, I had 40% of revenue to replace in my business because I also had staff to support, a partner. And so that's where your book came up, I think, on like a Facebook ad. And it was really intriguing, and reading it and reaching out to you, it was such a game changer because you asked me the questions that I knew the answers to, but didn't ask myself, and made stuff that should have been obvious to me, obvious in a way where I was able to take action on it and really start to kind of change the game of how I thought, and then our business model, right? And being able to focus on not only my zone of genius, but where I felt most comfortable. So long answer to your little question.
Awesome. I was muted because I know I always like move my chair and make these noises. So yeah, it's it's a crazy story. And at such a young age, just insane. And you were already extremely successful. I mean, most 30-year-olds aren't making six figures, and you were making six figures and doing really well. And then, here comes like this bomb, dropped on you that like no 30-year-old should ever experience, and also a miracle that you guys both survived, and that Chris came out of this, being able to, I remember you telling me like he couldn't walk, he couldn't talk, you had to nurse him back to life basically. And you had this huge burden, and then trying to run a business on top of that. And now have the pressure of being the breadwinner, the sole breadwinner, and then making the money and all this. So it's amazing like what you've accomplished. And also I think what's really amazing is that you went and asked for help. You came to me and you invested money after having this huge financial burden and otherwise to say, hey, I actually realize, even though I don't probably want to pay extra money to figure this out and like you get the help to grow my business, I just want it to magically be fixed. You invested in yourself to learn how to do it the right way, and so that you can build a sustainable business. And I'm sure that wasn't an easy decision financially when you had all these other obligations, financial obligations, not to mention you didn't have a ton of time because you're still running around trying to take care of your husband.
Right. Yeah. We actually put it on Sarah's credit card. I was afraid to put it on my own because at the time I was still getting subpoenaed by the court to prove financial records and documents as a legal guardian of my husband, because I didn't have a power of attorney in place. Dumb. And so I said, Sarah, like I need help. I'm not really sure where to go from here. I know that we can do better and I can do better, but it's going to cost a lot of money. And she was on the final strategy, right? And right. She looked at me and she's like, well, we're in it together. I'll get a credit card and let's do it. And so that's exactly what we did. We put it on a 0% credit card, in 12 months. And we're like, let Jesus take the wheel because this is all we got, right?
That's awesome. Yeah. Sarah, that's a good partner there. And you've been working with her for how long?
Since I started the company in 2012, actually. So she, Yeah, she initially started as my assistant, like working out of my bedroom because I didn't have space for her at the office. And,
that's awesome.
And then progressed into really liking the industry and getting licensed and ultimately becoming a partner.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. So what, I'm sure they're wondering, like, what did you do to go from, and we, like you said, we were kind of guessing on the numbers, but you said you were is it okay to share your numbers?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So somewhere around the 200 gross range, 200 and maybe 300 range. And you've basically tripled since then in gross revenue. And a lot of that, like we said earlier, you did it a different way, and that's a lot of what I teach is like just kind of going outside the box in a marketing sense and a sales sense, but also in a way where you found a way to charge, have a separate business to charge extra money, and you're under a broker dealer or under a company, and you still found a way to do that. So I haven't shared much of that on the podcast. So give them an idea, just a couple of things, like what you did, let's say even before you started that second company, what you shifted, and then why you decided to do that, to start that second company, and how it all fits together.
Sure. So we, initially in going through all of the process of like, who's your ideal client and niching down and all of that, I realized, well, my ideal client are other women like me, like other women who are super type A little bit competitive, very ambitious, and they're career focused. And that's who I knew I could serve best. And so we started to speak to those women, right? Only those women. And not only talking to them in terms they understand, but Julie, like Sarah and I just got really vulnerable and started talking about what we did wrong and the experiences that we had. And it really opened up so many really terrific conversations in terms of like, oh, I didn't realize like that's what a financial planner could help me with, or I didn't realize I could relate to one like that. And so it helped in terms of, for the first time ever, instead of us going out there and seeking business, and instead of us going out there like pounding the pavement, like we had women coming to us to start asking questions and reaching out. And so that was like the first pivotal point. And then,
and how did you have them come to you? So obviously, you got clear on who is that person you want to attract. And then, we talk a lot about messaging, like knowing what to say to attract them, but still you had to put something out. Yes. Either to your clients or to the world that you exist and this is who you work with. So what was that marketing piece that brought them to like come to you now?
Sure. So it was a combination of social media, networking events, and we did some also workshops. We started doing a lot more workshops and hosting those at our office. And then we actually had a pretty good go. Like in the beginning, it was really hard actually to get people to show up. And then when I realized I actually had to like seriously follow up with everybody to get them to show up and charge for the workshop, we ended up selling them out, after we kind of got into the swing of things every time. But yeah, it was so funny. Like, in the industry, it's like, oh, come to this retirement planning seminar, which that sounds terrible, but then it's for free. And the reality of it is like when people sign up for something for free and it sounds important, but not that sexy, like they just don't come. And so when we started changing the language that we were using and talking how I normally talk and charging for it, people actually like paid for it and then showed up because they paid for it to show up. And so that was a good experiment, I suppose, to run. And now I'll never not charge for an event.
What do you charge for those?
Value. So we only charge $25 for to come. And so and we've kind of wonked around with the price a little bit, but that was enough where people will still show up, but it's a little enough amount of money where people don't think twice about buying a ticket either. Right. So it was kind of the price point that we found.
And how long is the workshop?
They are an hour long. Usually, sometimes they'll go a little bit over depending on like we have a lot of women where like I just have to kick them out eventually because they're all at night and I like to go to bed very early, but like they'll go an hour and then everybody will stay after and connect and network and talk. And so we end up having like a really good time, which is exactly what you want. You want that environment and experience. But yeah, sometimes they overstay their welcome. I love them.
You're like, get out of here.
Yeah, but like I had an 8:30 bedtime. We got to go.
Yeah.
But
okay, that's awesome. Yeah. And we're going to bring someone else on to talk a little about these exclusive events. We call them in our world, we call them exclusive events. And I remember bragging about you when you first did your exclusive events, because I used to share that with, prospects, and I'd be like, here's Nicholle. And she did her first, I remember, because I still have it on my sheet, but you did your first 2 exclusive events, which were very small, but they had 8 people total, and you got 100% and you closed over $20,000 in business, like really, really fast. And that was like a total game changer for you, because you were like, oh my gosh, like they don't have to have 100 people. It doesn't have to be like I'm spending all this money, like to have these plate lickers come in and like this whole seminar type thing. And now you've expanded it to even more, to actually charge and like what makes it valuable for people to come is your messaging. And we talk a lot about that, like knowing who you're targeting and who that person is, and using your language and their language to understand what the value is because if I told anyone listening to this podcast right now to just like, oh yeah, do a workshop and charge $25, I guaranteed they won't get people like you do, because they haven't spent the time to know who is that person, who am I talking to, what's going to drive them to this event, what's all the messaging that gets them there, the credibility that you've built over years. Now that you have a book, it's even easier, but the credibility you've built because you're posting and you're getting noticed and you keep speaking the same language and you have the same messaging, the same branding, and you go like this compounds. So that has come, like some of it came over time because you've been doing this now for a few years, but some of it was like, okay, when your first exclusive event, you were just like, okay, who's it for? What do they want? What's holding them back? Let me put that in the messaging and the language and then drive them there. And they were small, but then you got like really amazing conversions from it. So that's really cool. So tell them then how it evolved into you building a side business here, because again, under the umbrella that you're at, like the firm, you have your independent firm, but you're still under a typical broker dealer. Mm-hmm. And you had to go outside the box, and you had to do something different and you had to get it approved and all that juice. So how did that evolve?
So I actually always had a separate consulting company. Okay. Because with the family business succession planning that I was doing prior, you needed it for that as well. So we were already invoicing monthly for the succession planning. So I had the umbrella open. I was also doing some like random business consulting and that kind of thing. So in any event, what I found and learned mostly from the gaps in financial planning, and then a lot of what you were talking about too, Robyn, in your program and the money coaching, is that it's like, wait a minute, like financial planning is amazing and it's super impactful, but there's this huge disconnect between where a lot of women need to start and where financial planning starts. A lot of time it's just complete overkill and overwhelm and not appropriate when someone just needs the basics, when they need to get their mindset right, when their habits and behaviors need to get figured out. And so we created, it was initially Wilcox Consulting, which, that sounds horrible. And then, I came up with the name PowHERhouse Money Coaching to really be more on brand in terms of we are working with PowHERhouse women, but we're working with women. So we rebranded to do that, and then came up with a 6-month money coaching program that helps get women prepared for financial planning, that instills the habits and the beliefs that they need to have, and really walking them through that so that they are not wasting their money on a financial plan that they're not equipped with to follow through on. So we created that, and it was a great concept, I think, because in being in a broker dealer, we had to get it approved and go through that whole process. And just like with writing the book, it was so funny. Like the book is through PowHERhouse Money Coaching, but our compliance team read the whole thing and approved it to not like use it through our broker dealer, but to use it through coaching. Just like all the workshops that we do, I'm sure there's a ton of advisors like, how the hell do you charge for that? And so because all of our workshops in our events that we have are through PowHERhouse. So we got it approved by our compliance department to not use it for, Wilcox Financial. And then we use them all through PowHERhouse because they're pure education. They're not, there's no sales, there's not any direct advice. And so truly it's not financial advising, it's education, it's impactful. And so that's how we were able to create all of that through the separate coaching program.
That's so awesome. And I love that PowHER. I remember like you coming up with that. I'm like, damn, that's some good shit. Very, very good. And that's very much talking to the audience. And do you remember like with the succession planning, and I know you're not great with remembering these numbers and time, but do you have any idea like where you are? Like, cause you said you tripled we figured out you tripled your business over the last few years. But in that separate business, did that take off even more, like that much more on, as far as scaling, or was it about even like in your financial business and then that business as far as like, triple or did you do even more on that side?
So how we track our numbers, we kind of muddy the waters quite a bit in terms of the like financial plans and coaching fees and what we're doing. We actually track that together for simplicity purposes. And quite honestly, I don't care that much about the difference because it's the same goal.
Feeds each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more like a marketing. It's just like your marketing arm really. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, that makes sense.
It's marketing and being able to serve in a way we want to serve, right? Because if we didn't have that arm, we wouldn't be able to do the education that we do. We wouldn't be able to do the coaching. And so, but as far as like it coming in, we just track cohesive numbers between coaching and fee-based financial plans as one
And you
number.
told me before we started recording that you're now doing $35,000 a month in fee-based and coaching.
Yes.
Is that what we said? Yeah. 35,000. Yeah. That's ridiculous. Yeah. And do you have, I barely remember, but I remember like you were charging fees before, but you were way undercharging. And that was a lot of our conversations, but do you remember what it was on a monthly basis before 4 years ago ish?
Like,
I know I'm killing you on these numbers.
$5,000, maybe
5,000,
maybe less than that, probably less than that in the beginning.
That would be 60,000 a year. Yeah.
Yeah, it was nothing. And it was zero. Like, I mean, we were probably doing like 1,000 and then really increased it and looking at how much I charge for financial plans there. And I laugh at it all the time. Like, it was like $750. And now, our minimum is $2,500. But the reality of it is like, we looked at all of the work that we were doing and the time that we were spending and we were earning negative dollars. Like we were paying the client pretty much to work with us. And we're like, what the hell are we doing? Right. And what I found too, and this is good for anybody to hear who's not charging is like, our clients appreciate paying us and they appreciate paying us what we're worth for our time because they know that there's not that feeling of resistance or I'm not feeling in a way like angry or like, I don't want to work hard for you because I'm not getting compensated for my time. So there's that fair exchange of, I feel really good about getting compensated for my time. And they feel really good about all of the advice that they're getting and being able to implement without being sold some stuff they don't need. Right. Mm-hmm. So and there's a lot of value in that. Like, I think when advisors are talking about, well, I just, I do it for free and will help, but like, where's the other shoe going to drop, and it just doesn't sound that genuine or that authentic. And how can you do that? Right. How can you provide the best advice without getting paid to give you the time to do that?
Absolutely. And I've had clients tell me the same, like, I love paying you, it's kind of like they're my femmes or my program, but it's called Female Empowered Money Makers. My femmes are my friends or as my friend said, my family, like my family. She's like, you missed the opportunity to say family. I said, my femmes are my friends. And she's like, and their family. But it's true. Like my clients become my best friends. And I know that's the case a lot, with most advisors who their best clients are, they want to go hang out with them. They want to go to lunch with them. It's not, it's just there's nothing weird about being paid by someone and still being really close, like, because the value exceeds the money they pay. Like I never feel bad. And I use this example, Lisa Chastain, I use her example because she had no money basically when she decided to work with me. I mean, she had very little in her retirement left after exhausting almost $100,000 out of a retirement account as a financial advisor, feeling totally incongruent. And I happily took the rest of her money out of her retirement account, even though I knew that that was freaking her out because I saw the potential. I knew what she could create with that. And I didn't feel bad because I knew that would just be an investment in herself. And she proved to do phenomenally well, just like you did. And I didn't know the specifics of where the money came from or anything, but I knew there was a lot of apprehension about you paying for the program and how you're going to come up with the money. But you were at a point where the good thing about having these horrible traumatic things happening is like, you knew you couldn't go back. And most people will sit in this comfort, right? Of like, well, I'm not making the money I want to make. I'm not really living the life I want to live. I'm not really fulfilled, and I'm kind of comfortable, and I'm kind of bored, but I don't really have reliable systems. I don't really have predictable marketing, but like, I'm getting by. And so there's not enough fire under their butts to like go say, oh, I'm going to take money that I don't have or from my retirement or find it somewhere that's not allocated towards growing their business, unless something traumatic like that happens where they're like, which could be the market tanking this year, where people are like, holy crap, I lost 30% of my income because I didn't have predictable, reliable marketing strategies. And like the market tanked and I'm relying on that AUM, but it sometimes takes that for people to act and like they're in dire straits. So good and bad, like you said, sorry, not so sorry. Like, I'm sorry that happened to you, but I'm not so sorry because it drove you to go get help and get what you needed. And like it's like you're already making $1 million before you're making $1 million a year, And I said to you, you're very close to that $1 million mark now, which is great because I want to create the 7-figure a year earners. And now, it usually takes about 4 or 5 years, and you're like, one more year, we got it. But it happened because you were committed. You took risks, you stepped outside your comfort zone, and you were incredibly coachable. And also, like, you didn't just take what I said, you kept expanding on it. Like you said, okay, here, as some people know, listening to this podcast, like I had a whole money coaching business, which was very different and very unusual in the space to have an outside business activity and all this. And you had some of those components already, like you said, and then you kept expanding on it. And now, that's ridiculous. Like making $35,000 a month just from your fee-based stuff. Like that's amazing. That's amazing. But that's why it's so exciting to see that transformation, because it was like, you just needed some of those strategies and then you just ran with it. So what advice would you give, the listeners, whether they've been in the business 30 years or whether they're just starting, just what advice would you give them that will really help them break through as well?
I think, my advice is the same for when I do podcasts talking to people who are looking to start planning, to start coaching, to start, business or what have you. It is take a look at where you currently are and who you're becoming and what are your top goals and priorities. And if you were to take action on just one of them, the very most important thing, do that, whatever it takes. Like if you were to just take action on that, you'd be in a completely different space a year from now. And it's the number one thing I see why people don't get to where they should be, or they don't reach their potential, or, it's the difference between successful and unsuccessful people's action, right? But sometimes we get overwhelmed and stuck by how many things we want to do. And if you were to just pick that one priority and commit to taking action on it, like right now, that would be my best piece of advice.
I love that. Like one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is because for some reason, this year is very much a mindset year for me. It's very much a focus year. And I actually met this guy a few months ago. I think it was back in October at this mastermind that I'm in. And his name's Alex Sharfin. He actually, I'll promote him because he'll probably be on this podcast soon. But oh my gosh, I love this guy. I have a business crush on him. I even told my husband, I really have a business crush on him, because I'm so impressed. and I love everything he teaches. I'm just soaking it up. He has a podcast called Momentum Podcast. But I sat with him at this mastermind, and he told me, he's like, Robyn, your business is in crisis. And I was like, what? We're on track to, 1.5 million this year, baby. We're doing good. No, but I actually didn't say that because I knew he was right. Because I was like, my COO, who's amazing, I feel like she has 3 jobs. She was working 12 to 14 hours a day, Ashley, and I'm not working quite as much, but we're constantly running and, doing all these sprints. And it's just a lot, we're strong arming the business a lot, even though I have incredible strategies and things that work, to at a 7-figure level, which not everybody has, but with it comes a lot of new problems and infrastructure, internal things and all that. Anyway, so he told me that basically what he said is you need to do less and create, like stop reacting and thinking everything is urgent, because everything to me is urgent. I'm very much like the typical entrepreneur that's like react and always doing a million things and very visionary and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, like he's so right. And it affected me so intensely, like to a point where I actually felt it in my body when I was talking to him, in like almost like this weird, but like a tingling way, like, and I'm not super religious, but I do believe in God. And it was like, whoa, like something is happening. Like, it's like, it's not coming just from the sky. It's like, this is a really important conversation about like what I'm learning from him. And what I got out of that, and it's just been like seeping in over the last few months, is just really about intention and focus and just doing less, like taking less on to be able to have such a greater impact and to be able to not just grow the business, but to be able to really focus and help more people in a more impactful way. And everything this year, I'm waking up at 5 a.m. every day, do the 5 a.m. club. It sounds like you wake up super early, you know, and I know you work out, and like, we're working on our mindset, we're working on our body, we're working on focus and meditation and all these things to get to a place where we can have, you know, the most value, provide the most value to people and make the biggest difference. And it all comes back to focus. And even how to get to like the 7-figure a year mark, it took focus, like let's do less. And so I love what you said about that, because that's been a theme for me. It's just like, okay, how can I be intentional and proactive and make intentional decisions instead of just constantly running and reacting, and do one thing and do it well. And I take action. It's always taking action, but it's like not 8 things at once, which is what I typically did in the past, which served me well to a certain degree. And then burnout hits you and slaps you in the face. Right.
Yeah.
So that's great advice. Great advice. Well, let's tell them where they can get your book and where they can find you.
Sure. So our Instagram is the best way to find us, to connect with us. It has a link to everything, the book, our websites at PowHERhouse Money. And then the book is also on, not only on our website, but on Amazon as well.
Cool. And it's called Money Bitch. And just because it's going to create a lot of curiosity, like tell me again how you came up with that name, because that was pretty bold for you to come up with that. And I remember going like, whoa, that's pretty crazy. And I'm a bold person, but like, I remember you definitely surveyed your clients and you're like, that's what they like. But where did that come from something, or you just kind of went with it?
No, we were just like spitballing names back and forth. And, you know, it was like, oh, Money Bitch. Let's go with that, you know, and we definitely got a lot of people who didn't like it, but those weren't our people. And at the end of the day, you know, my biggest goal was like, you know, if we're going to make a big impact, how can we get people to be curious in a way that they wouldn't naturally be curious about this topic? And so we stuck with the title, where some people loved it, some people hated it, and you know, and now we've created this whole brand behind it, you know, and who is a money bitch, and what is she like? And we've had a lot of fun with it. So
that's awesome. Cause I at first was like, is it like money bitch, or is it like money bitch? Like I am a money bitch, or is it like kind of like be your boss to your money? Like, you know, so it sounds like it's kind of more like the identity.
It is. Yeah. Like, and money bitch is someone who is confident in the decisions that she makes. It's someone who is getting paid what she is worth. It's someone who like is building her net worth and knows healthy boundaries and asks for help. Like all of those things that we stand for and that we are constantly teaching and talking about. That's a money bitch. So it's really awesome. More of like a persona and what we're trying to have all of our clients be. Bunch of money bitches.
We're total money bitches. Like, that's so awesome. Oh, this is so much fun. I don't really want to say goodbye, but we might have a little side convo like in a few minutes without you guys. But thank you so much. This is Nicholle Overkamp. Check her out on PowHER Money, right?
PowHERhouse.
PowHERhouse. See, I already screwed it up. There, PowHER. See, I knew they'd forget so much that I forgot. So that makes a lot more sense. PowHERhouse Money on Instagram. You can get her book, Money Bitch, so you can be a money bitch too. Check her out and all her amazing branding and tools and cuteness as well. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. I actually have the link for the tag challenge, the appointment generator challenge. So instead, you can just go to femalefinancialadvisors.com and register right now so that you can get 5 quality appointments in just 5 days. Now, this is not around, you having to talk to friends and family and get all awkward. This is not about you having to spend marketing dollars online or create a whole funnel. This is going to be easy. It's simple. It happens in 5 days. If I can get you 5 quality appointments in 5 days, then you know that you can have the best year of your life, because you just need to get in front of more of the right people. We will walk through it together as we do it. So do not miss this. And if you're smart, do VIP, spend a few extra bucks, and you can actually spend time with me on Zoom where I can connect with you, get to know you, and really help you get those quality appointments so that you can grow your business. And go ahead again, register at femalefinancialadvisors.com. You'll find it all there. It's coming up very, very soon. So make sure to register, claim your spot, get in on this, get excited about it, block your calendar, because you need to spend about an hour to an hour and a half a day with me on the Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so that you can get these results. And it does work. The most appointments I think we got in those 5 days. Someone, I think it was Dana, got 33 appointments. So you could be my best student and go well beyond the 5 quality appointments. Go to 10, go to 15, go to 20, and set yourself up for the best year ever. Can't wait to see you at the Tag Challenge. See you there. Thank you again for listening to Growing Your Financial Business the Woman's Way.